Hello, welcome to another exciting episode of the weekly roundup on Canadian immigration news and update. Well, there hasn't been something new that you don't already know, but we will like to go through all of that anyways, discuss about it, sort of, speculate a bit, see what has happened, what are looking promising on the horizon, and some of them you might have missed out. So just like what we always do every week, either Saturday or Sunday. Now it has moved from Saturday to Sunday because yesterday we did the NOC 2021 discussion. So today we have come back to do our weekly roundup. So very quickly, without wasting your time, let's start. As usual, we will start with the quote of the week. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you will be able to see further, said Thomas Carlyle. Now, I personally love this quote, and for the very reason, sometimes you cannot see very far because you're not anywhere closer to sort of see further. So as you will proceed further, you will see a much larger, bigger picture, and obviously you will be able to see your goal, your path clearly. So continue moving. I guess that's the biggest learning point here. Just keep going, keep moving, even if you don't see very far away, keep walking, keep kicking towards your goal, and I'm sure you will eventually get there. Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup, that's for today, 19th of September. What we will be discussing today: latest provincial nomination programs, draws, what happened, what didn't happen. CEC draws, of course, we have to talk about CEC draws, right? Because that's the only thing that's happening. Express entry draws, which obviously adds up to CEC draws, and then the IRCC updates, if there have been any, and other news in Canada, elsewhere, in connection to what we would be interested in. Starting with the provincial nominee programs, Ontario invited international student graduates, so that's master's graduate and PhD graduate in their graduate stream. They invited 691 international students. Now, this surprisingly, this is the third draw that they did, and a very quick succession, which is quite interesting, because earlier what was happening is that they would open the stream. A lot of people would try to log in. They couldn't because it was all jammed up, and by the time they were able to log in, it would be closed. So by this new process that they have started of expression of interest, this definitely helps, and it sort of gives everybody a chance to get through with that. Alberta, they are obviously amazingly, using this opportunity of draws not happening, the all program or the FSW draws not happening. They conducted another very large draw and invited 500 people from the express entry pool. And the minimum requirement was only, again, 300, as mentioned on the website. As usual, we must have spoken about this so many times about Alberta PNP especially, and it still is a big confusion for a lot of you out there. Well, Alberta PNP, you do not need to do anything except have a valid, eligible express entry profile, which should not be expiring within the next 5 months. If that is what you have done, then you have already put yourself in a promising position. Of course, in the provinces, you should have selected all provinces, or one of the provinces of your choice should have been Alberta. If you have already done this, then there is nothing else for you to do in order to attract an invitation from Alberta. Alberta has always played like a Bermuda Triangle. There's so much of mystery there, as in they have never ever published what is the criteria under which they will invite people. They don't they don't publish the NOC codes. They don't publish any specific information based on which they've invited. For example, they said CRS score over 300. Now, that's a laugh, because we know that there are like almost 100,000 profiles with a score of 300 plus. And if you were to invite only 500, which 500 got invited? So nobody knows. It's only through people sharing their information on social media posts, platforms, you will understand which NOC codes were invited. In this particular draw, I think a couple of IT NOCs were also invited, 2283 or 82, 2171. These were the two NOCs that I heard a bit more often than otherwise. But yes, do share information as and when you do get notifications of interest, and then everybody can understand who received, what you received, and why you received. Obviously, also mention your CRS score. That also gives an insight as to at what CRS score levels they've invited, because lately Alberta has been inviting high ranking profiles as well. So we have seen somebody even at a score of 500 receiving an Alberta notification of interest, and that's like, oh, what are you thinking, Alberta? But they're making the best use of the fact that express entry all program draws have not been conducted since December 23rd. Moving on, my friends, moving on. Okay, the next, this one is the usual suspect that we have on our weekly roundups. British Columbia, they never fail. They always have a draw every week, almost every week, I would say. I don't want to say every week, and then you would say, why didn't it happen last week? Anyways, so they invited 464 in their latest draw. Again, the criteria with British Columbia, for a lot of people who keep wondering, British Columbia obviously is a very big province. They also have a very big quota for PNP programs. They, I think, have more than 6,500 or 7,000 at the last count. The only issue is that in order to be eligible in British Columbia PNP, you need to have a valid job offer. Not only a valid job offer, you should have a valid job offer from an eligible employer. So just any employer cannot give you a job offer. There are specific criteria for the employers. Only one stream is where you can apply without a job offer, and that is if you have graduated from one of the Alberta universities under specific subjects. So if you have done that, then you will be able to apply for PNP without a job offer. But in all other conditions, you will need a job offer. So that's Alberta PNP for you. The next we had was Prince Edward Islands. This is the favorite of all the agents out there. This is what they absolutely abuse and misuse and try to fool people. Anyways, for Prince Edward Islands, there was a new draw, and they invited 143 people last week. And the minimum score that they invited, and the minimum score, mind you, was for the business immigration category that they did publish, and that was 72. For their other express entry streams, they don't really announce the scores, so they will just announce that they have invited candidates. But mind you guys, when you go to agents or these so-called, who call themselves consultants, when you go to them in different countries, especially in the subcontinent, when they will try to, as we have this term, lapeto you, okay, or जब आपको लपेटने की कोशिश करते हैं, or when they're trying to sort of mystify you with this whole Canadian immigration and how easy and a walk in the park is, Prince Edward Islands usually is one of their petras, or one of their one of their ways of mystifying you. And they will usually tell you that Prince Edward Islands is very easy to get in. Look at this, they've invited so many people and you will definitely get through. We will lodge your file in Prince Edward Islands. Please do not fall for that stupid trap. We have been saying this so many times. Prince Edward Islands is the smallest province in Canada, and they also have the least amount of quotas in immigration PNP programs. But very rarely, very rarely have they invited people who do not have connection to the province. In most cases, they obviously want to give preference to people who are working there, who are living there, who are residing there, because the basic fundamental premise for any PNP program is the expression of interest to live, to reside, or the expression of intent, not expression of interest, but expression of intent is to live and reside in that province. Okay, and that is best established by the fact by somebody who's already living there. So if there's somebody already living there and already there is a serious intent to live in that province, the preference goes to those people. So very rarely have I seen anybody outside the province without having any connection to the province being invited. So please do not fall for that trap. Okay, and if anybody tells you, then you should know that they are obviously misleading you as far as the programs are concerned. So that's Prince Edward Islands for you. Canadian experience class. Well, there was a draw yet again, and that was surprisingly with only 2,000 invitations were issued, and this time the draw took off to 460, and the score was 462. Since the start of 2021. Not surprisingly, because by now we already know what's going on. They have invited people under 17 Canadian experience class draws. Now, what is Canadian experience class? In order to be eligible in the Canadian experience class, you should have 1 year of work experience on a valid work permit in Canada. Okay, and this should be for 12 months at least. 1,560 hours you should have completed within the last 3 years. Work experience while studying in Canada is not counted. Work experience as a self-employed individual in Canada is not counted, is not acceptable under Canadian experience class. As we had seen over the last 1 year or so, with the onset of the fact that they were giving out so many draws and invitations to Canadian experience class, that the scores had like literally plummeted. The best one was on the 13th of February, where the scores were only 75. Phenomenal. After that, also, when they did continue with the draws with only Canadian experience class, the scores really, stayed low. And the lowest, I think we went down to 357 after that, if I am not wrong there. Anyways, so the scores did go down, and then people are getting used to the fact that the scores are going to remain low. A lot of people took that for granted. A lot of people were continuing to decline their ITAs, but then again, things have changed. The number of invitations started reducing. They were issuing 6,000 ITAs, came down to 5,000, came down to 4,500, came down to 3,000, and then they did not do a draw at all 2 weeks back. As the trend was PNP, CEC, PNP, CEC, CEC draw was not done. That then followed by another surprising Tuesday draw, which they conducted within this last week, and only 2,000 invitations were issued. Result of that was the scores shot up, and the scores for this particular draw was 462. At this point of time, there are a lot of CEC candidates who are also equally freaking out because they now think or feel that they might be losing out on some very, valuable opportunity here. I am not going to discuss at this point of time what federal skilled candidates or aspirants, because that's a different painful story. But this is what happened with CEC. Why did IRCC not conduct a draw, which they should have, or as they would have done under normal circumstances? We don't know. There are so many theories, and as of right now, speculations don't stop. I speculate as well, but I usually will have some logic or reasoning. If you ask me, I will always tell you this is the reason why I'm saying this or speculating this. But as of right now, there are all kinds of speculations in the air, including CEC draws. So the draw happened. One of the draws happened, and not as people were expecting. Okay, express entry. CEC is part of express entry, so there is it just sort of adds in. But what we are trying to say in express entry also, Canada did invite 521 new candidates with a CRS score of 732, and these candidates did have a nomination already. So if they received an invitation, it basically meant they had already received 600 points in their CRS score because they have received a nomination. A lot of you always, are always wondering how can the score be 732? Because if you remove the 600 points from the nomination, that basically leaves it with only 132. Good mathematics. Well, the thing is, what a lot of people do not take into consideration is that there are plenty of candidates who do get nomination, even with low scores. They could be living in Canada. They could be having a job offer. They could be having, additional qualification, because you see 600 points come under additional factors under the CRS points. The maximum points you can get for those additional factors is 600. So even if they would have got other points for other factors like sibling, like job offer, like COQ, which is certificate of qualification, all those points gets nullified because they have now got 600 points. Okay, so it's not really necessary that their score was 132. Could have been 182, could have been 200, could have been something more than that. But because of those additional factors which are topped up or maxed out at 600, they get only 600 points, which are for the nomination, and other factors are removed. And then you're always thinking 600 minus 732, 732 minus 600 means 132. But there are so many candidates in Canada under the FST category, Federal Skilled Trade category, who are also eligible in express entry, and they usually have a job offer or a certificate of qualification, and they are absolutely also able to get a nomination from the province, and therefore, allowing them to come up with a score of only 732 kind of a thing. Okay, what else do we have on our roundup here? Important IRCC updates now. One of the updates that I would like to sort of share with you is the Parents and Grandparents Lottery 2021. The week of September 20th, which is basically next week, IRCC will invite 30,000 sponsors over the span of 2 weeks. And these sponsors, who will primarily be Canadian citizens or permanent residents, and they would be able to sponsor their parents or grandparents for permanent residents in Canada. All these people who would be invited would be from a group of people who had submitted their expressions of interest last year in 2020. Last year, they invited 10,000 people, and with the promise that they will invite 30,000 in 2021. So that's what they're doing. They are going through with that. New expressions of interest have not been invited. So if there were anybody out there who was looking to submit a new expression of interest for this, they were not asked to do so. So it's only people who had already submitted their expressions of interest last year. From that pool, they will be drawing out 30,000 applications or 30,000 invitations. And these people, if they're eligible, will be able to submit an application for permanent residence for their parents or grandparents. It's a good move for family reunification. So yeah, that's always nice. In other news, we do have the fact that visitors continue to have access to work permits. Now, this is another funny one because, okay, what does this basically mean? Let me bring that slide back for you. Okay. Visitors continue to have access to work permits. IRCC has extended a temporary policy introduced a year ago where employers can find workers and allow temporary residents to enter the workforce. Okay, now what is on the slide here is just a very, very brief summary. It does not mean that the visitors or people on visit visa can come to Canada and work. Please don't fall into that. Again, a lot of people are promoting that as well. As a visitor, you cannot work in Canada, period. There is no bar. I mean, there is no different ways of looking at it. If you're here on a visit visa, you're here on a visit visa. In order to work, you need a work permit. Now, what this particular policy is referring to, that if you have come to Canada as a visitor, and if you're able to secure a job offer, a valid job offer with an LMIA, then you will be able to apply from inside Canada for a work permit. And you will then also be able to request IRCC to issue the authorization to work while your work permit is being processed. This is what it refers to. Under normal circumstances, you cannot apply for a work permit from inside Canada. It has to be done from outside Canada. This provision was made primarily for under this pandemic situation, and they have extended this to, I think, until February, if I'm not mistaken. So that is what it means. It does not mean visitors can come and work in Canada, or visitors will have an automatic right to work. Please do not mistake this policy for that. And then that's just about it. Is that it? Okay. Well, connect with us on social media. Follow us for weekly immigration news updates and many, many more things that you should. Hi. Well, there are a few other things as well, which was not covered in my slide because the person who creates those slides apparently went off to sleep while he was being briefed what else needs to be added there. Anyways, we will continue with that part. Well, if you haven't seen my yesterday's video, which I uploaded last night again after the morning mess up on that, there was an audio video lag, so we had to redo the video. I mean, not redo, we edited the video, upload it again. Please take a look at that. It talks about the NOC 2021, the anticipated changes in the NOC classifications, the occupation classifications. By and large, it will not affect the majority of you, but there might be some of you who might be affected. However, please do not panic at this point of time, because at this point of time, it's only a speculative understanding of what that database, the changes to that database will promote in Express Entry. At this point of time, there is absolutely no news to say which category of NOC codes will be eligible, will not be eligible. So at this point of time, it's absolutely futile to freak out and panic. Well, freak out and panic once IRCC makes that changes in that news, but until such time, there is no point of sort of doing that. We've already we've already sort of discussed about it so that you are aware of something that is happening. Probably if you're a student in Canada, you're planning to come to Canada on student, you will be able to plan where you need to work, where you don't need to work. If you're looking to get a job, you need to get a job offer. You'll be able to figure out what you should be doing in terms of your knock codes. But by all means, please do not panic as far as certain people are freaking out, specifically with tier 3 categories now. That's the first one. Second, flight ban. The flight ban from direct, or rather the direct flight, the direct commercial flights that have been banned from India at this point of time. We'll talk about that. So as per the current flight ban, it is in effect until the 21st of September, which is Tuesday. And there has been no update or change. If you remember, last month, or rather early September, they did update it very quickly and extended it to 21st of September. It hasn't been done. So again, there are, as we all love to do, right? Speculation. I think it's something we love doing. We love indulging in. Well, I did discuss this matter with a couple of my friends who are also travel agents, big travel agents in Canada, and they had come out of some meeting with some government officials, and they were told that this probably is going to be lifted. However, unconfirmed reports, there is no credibility to that kind of report because there is no credibility to it. But they haven't made the change. They haven't announced the change. And I personally feel the reason why that has not been announced is primarily to do with the elections, which are tomorrow. In case you did not know that, Canada is going for elections tomorrow, 20th of September. Conservatives, liberals, fingers crossed to see whoever may the best man win, right? But it's my assumption the reason why the flight ban news has, or rather the flight ban update, whether they're going to extend or whether they're going to lift the flight ban, that has not been announced, primarily because of the elections, because for whatever reason, they do not want that news, whether it's good or bad, to directly affect anybody's emotions who obviously might already be quite upset with the bans. Because mind you, it's not only people who are trying to come to Canada who might be international students or COPR holders. It could also be quite a large diaspora of Canadian citizens who were looking to travel or looking to travel back, or their families who are traveling to come back. Well, obviously, right, these kind of news and these kind of situations also affect them. And since they are the direct vote bank, well, you won't blame them for holding back on this. Now, that is the flight ban. The third I have written over here are the PPRs. PPRs for express entry, PPRs for spouse open work permit, PPRs for family sponsorship applications. Well, to be very honest, there has been no further update, no further news from what we did last week when we realized that some people were beginning to see the PPRs. They were already getting, people were in US, people, I think I also heard of somebody in Nigeria who also managed to get their PPR. There were PPRs issued to people in Australia, in Singapore, obviously in India as well. So these are the news which came out through different social media groups, social media platforms, people confirming that they were receiving PPRs. These were federal skilled workers, these were outland, they were PNPs, they were also CECs who were outside Canada. So a combination of different categories of people who did get PPR, but it was not the big chunk that we've already been saying that, it won't be a big chunk of PPRs that would be issued. It would start with a trickle. It would start with a very, very small number, and slowly you will see that building up. And that's the hope and prayer out there to sort of have that happen. The sooner the better. As far as the new visit visas portal and applications is concerned, IRCC did do a U-turn and a backtrack on their initial announcement that they recommend everybody who had applied for visit visas before the 7th of September, if they were looking to come to Canada, to reapply. And then they backtracked on that. And then they said, okay, everybody should not apply, or rather everybody should not reapply, but only people whose circumstances had changed, they should reapply and basically come, if they were looking to come for family reunification. So that was the news which came out on the 7th of September. However, at least I haven't heard of anybody so far who has received an approved visit visa after having submitted on the new portal, or after having submitted after the 7th September. At least I haven't heard it. If there is somebody out there, please do share with that. That will also sort of give some hopes to a lot of people who are waiting for reunification of their families. The last point I have with me here to discuss, and though it's nothing new, and that's about the all program draws. Well, firstly, I don't have any inside information. Nobody has. Anybody who claims they have inside information are just obviously BSing. I have been extremely hopeful that it would start by third quarter, which is going to end in the next 11 days. So basically, I have one more shot at my prediction. Hopefully, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, because otherwise, imagine how much money do I lose when I go to a casino and gamble, right? If I cannot get this. But the reason why I speculated with the September, or rather the third quarter draws, was because if there was any connection to all those different things which were related to COVID that was happening, that was holding Canada back from conducting these draws, well, all of them have already been cleared out. The post 18th March EcoPR holders can travel. They have been conducting lots of draws. So quotas is not a problem for a lot of people who are thinking quotas have run out or they've run out of quotas. Well, that does not seem like an issue, because they continue doing some very large draws of 6,000, 5,000, 4,500 kind of draws. Yes, they are not dwindling down. It's coming down to 2,000, which is also anticipated because we are coming to the end of the year. So, I mean, they do not have an unlimited supply of invitations, but there is some sort of an understanding of how many they will issue, because it is all tied into annual quotas. There is also speculation of the elections, but I don't think elections has anything to do with the draws, especially the all program draws, because it doesn't affect the people who will get their invitations by the time they submit their applications. Come to Canada would probably be next year. There is no relation and it doesn't affect their any Canadian citizens as far as the draws are concerned. So I don't see anything to do with the elections either. So my speculation, or my speculative predictions as far as third quarter was concerned, was primarily to do with Canada was progressing fast with the vaccination numbers, which they are at this point of time at quite a decent rate. The numbers were coming down, the COVID infections were coming down, the mortality rate was reduced, was also dropping. By and large, it looked like a better, more healthier picture than the 2020. Also, the restrictions were being lifted. The travel restrictions were being lifted. All kinds of restrictions were basically being lifted. I mean, it was becoming much better. And therefore, third quarter seemed like if there was any reason because of COVID or because of pandemic that the draws were held back, then it obviously, once everything is getting normal, then there was no reason to hold back. And hence, I continue to think and feel and say, pray and hope that it was third quarter. But for some reason, they obviously have different thoughts, different ideas, and that's the reason why the draws haven't happened. But I do not know why the draws are not taking place, to be very honest. I mean, I have broken my head against the wall thinking what could be the reason. And no matter how many forums I have attended, no matter how many different threads, different people in the know who I've listened to, there doesn't seem to be any more logical explanation except that it should be around the corner and we should continue to be hopeful. I mean, that's the only way to look at it. But I mean, as much as I would like to give you more information on this, I personally don't have it. I guess it will happen when it will happen. And that's basically all that I have to add for today's weekly roundup. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, let's get on with the questions and see what people are talking about. Okay, the last question first, and then we'll go back because that's right up on my screen right now. Gagandeep says, FST Inland want to change my job after approval of OBWP. I don't know what you mean by OBWP. And I talked to IRCC, he said you have to stick with the same employer even after approval of OBWP because of LMIA, close work permit. I am really sorry, but I don't really understand the question. If you are referring to bridge open work permit, well, the bridge open work permit it's because by the mere sense of the word that it's an open work permit, it allows you to, however, did we lose our screen for a bit? Okay. Anyways, so we are back. So you have to also keep in mind, you also have to understand what were the conditions under which you received your invitation and under which you received your, or whether you submitted your application. You need to be mindful of that, and then continue with your application. Okay, Ravi Shankar says, can we apply visit visa for spouse first, even after the spousal outland application is initiated? Yes, absolutely, you can apply. There is no problem with that. However, what happens is that whenever you apply for your spouse's open work permit, you will be completing the family information. You will be, mentioning the circumstances of your application. And if they're able to establish that the ties of the applicant to Canada are stronger versus the ties to the home country, then the chances are that the application may be refused. So you should be able to build a good case story and explain and provide enough supporting evidence to show why the person will have compelling reasons to return back. Is express entry open for Indians? Well, it is open for everybody. There is, it did not stop for anybody at this point of time. There has been no differentiation for any nationality whatsoever. Swapnil, thank you for the super chat. Should I do re-medicals upfront, as it has been 2 months, my medicals have expired, no communication from IRCC? If I do it upfront, will it affect my processing times? Okay. I think this is a very, very common question. A lot of people have been struggling to figure out they should do upfront or not. Well, IRCC categorically said in one of their updates that people should not do upfront medicals. That's what IRCC said in one of their updates. I do not remember. I don't have it handy at this point of time. But if you were to check medical IRCC, if you were to search on the CIC website, you should be able to find it. If IRCC is to give you extensions, and why will they give you an extension? Extensions are given based on your health conditions. So in most cases, if your health conditions were under category M1, and you can see that category on the GCMS notes, and if you're an M3 would be under the surveillance code, where basically there are some you may not be posing an immediate threat to the Canadians or residents, but you may have some underlying conditions. So if your assessment for your medicals was under category M1, you will be fine. In most cases, you would get extension of medicals for either up to 6 months or 12 months, depending on where you have been residing and where you come from. That is the designated countries. So if you're from non-designated countries or designated countries, you could get from 6 months to 12 months as an extension. Considering when your medicals have expired, and after your medicals expired, if only few months have passed, then I would not suggest you do a re-medical at this point of time, because there is a good possibility you would automatically get a medical extension. However, if, for example, you submitted your application in 2019, okay, 2019, 2020 early, 1 year has passed for the medical, obviously, application processing. It also depends when did you complete your medicals. So let's say from the date of medicals, if more than, let's say, 1 year and 8-10 months have passed already or more, then there is no harm in redoing the medicals. But if you do redo your medicals, then upload the medical information sheet using the web form. Health Canada will obviously, not Health Canada, the Health Department in IRCC will assess your medicals as and when it comes up for review. And if they see no other concerns, then you will obviously be given validity as per the new medical date or the extension there. But the choice is exactly yours. It's entirely up to you. Do you want to do your medicals at this point of time or not? I know a lot of people are extremely anxious. They want to get this done and finished and over with. I don't blame you. But for certain people, doing these medicals can also add to the cost, which they might not need to or may not want to. For example, if you are in the US, you're a family of 4, this could add up very quickly to $1,200 kind of a figure. I mean, that's a lot of money. Similarly, if you're in India, you're a family of 4. Again, even if 5,000 to 6,000 rupees is what you're paying, a family of 4, it could easily add up to 24,000 rupees. So, take a judgment call if you want to redo your medicals. If you have not been asked, obviously you don't need to redo your medicals. If they really need it, they will ask for it. And yes, you could expect a bit of them to add to the processing time, because they will need to reassess, they will need to check if everything is fine, and then give you the validity and process your application accordingly. Okay. Ravi Shankar says, can we apply a visit visa for spouse? Oh, we just answered that one. Why? Okay, let's run up and scroll up to all right at the top. Iron Man says, can we have some info on EcoPR backlog status, please? The last, let me just see if I have it handy. And what I have was the documentation of the applications which were pending, and that was for quite some time. I do not have any EcoPR data at this point of time as to what is pending, what is not pending. What I do have is the applications which are still in progress data, and that data also actually is quite old. And I'm just seeing if I can share it with you here. Let me see if there's any confidential thing here. No, nothing here. All right, let me just share it with you. Okay, yes, that's on your screen now. Let me see if I can make it bigger. No, it's going out of screen. All right, so this basically is what I had, and even this information that I had is basically effective of November 30th. If you can see here, this information is November 30th. Let me see if I can highlight it here. Yeah, it's of November 30th, 2020. It's nowhere, it's nowhere updated at this point of time. And on this particular date, this data was more recent. Okay, the data was more recent than November 30th. This was issued on February 21st. Data source is CIC. And between November 30th, 2020 and February 21, I'm not sure exactly how updated the data was on that particular date. But let's say even as of February 21, they had roughly these many applications pending. Okay, and this is the inventory list of this application that were pending. Just for, let's say, federal skilled workers, they had 48,000 applications pending, total inventory, 46,000, if that's what I'm reading correctly. The total number of applications pending at that date, economic express entry, was about 123,000 applications, and that was on the 21st of February. Obviously, after that, there hasn't been much FSW outland applications. Obviously, majority or FSW applications haven't been too many. What there were primarily after that were CEC, and they have been progressing CEC applications quite, in most cases 2 to 3 months has been quite common. But apart from that, no, I don't have any other data that I can unfortunately share with you. So I do not know what is the pending status for EcoPRs or how many they are holding or the backlogs there. Okay. Update on GSS closed work permit. I am not sure what do you mean by GSS. If you could just elaborate. If you're talking about GTS, which is Global Talent Stream, then that I don't have, again, I do not have any specific updates for individual application types. You can always check on the CIC website and see what the processing times are. Processing times will also largely depend and vary on different visa offices that are processing their applications. For example, typically in the US, the applications are getting processed faster, especially for the work permits, etc. Spouse open work permits also are getting processed faster. For example, if they were in Australia, Singapore, those countries where the visa offices do not have that much of backlog, and they probably are working. If you are stuck with Ottawa, then you're stuck with Ottawa. If you're stuck with New Delhi visa office, then know that there are some very serious, huge, heavy amount of backlog, and it is probably going to take time. Akhtar Nawaz says LMIA processing time. Well, again, you can also check the website, CIC website. It will give you the LMIA processing times. They will vary between high-wage professionals, low-wage professionals. So you can always check the times, but I think it's anywhere between 25 to 45 days at this point of time. Again, late. Yeah, well, what to do? Some things sometimes just don't work the way they should be. So you tend to get late. Sorry about that. I have received a pre-arrival letter from my husband's interview. After my husband's interview, via phone for spousal PR application. We haven't received a confirmation of COPR yet. Is letter a positive sign? Well, I don't consider, personally, I don't consider the pre-arrival letter to have any prompt to any specific milestone as such. Pre-arrival letters are sent out at some point of time in your application processing. They do not necessarily indicate that application has been finalized or COPR is around the corner. Not necessarily. A lot will also depend on how the interview of your spouse went with NDVO and what decision they have taken. But if everything is fine, and I really hope and pray for you that everything is fine, then you should get your COPR soon. Okay. Darshan says, I have a job offer. If I do come to Canada on a visitor visa, which I already have, will I be able to change my visitor visa to work permit while in Canada? Yes, you will be able to change. Okay, it's not changing. You will not be able to change anything. The visit visa certainly does not become a work visa. All right. What will happen is, if you're already in Canada, you are already on a visit visa. If you're able to find an employer who's willing to hire you, who's willing to give you a job offer, obviously should have an LMIA, then you will be able to apply for a work permit. Now, you could, under normal circumstances, flagpole, go to the nearest border and apply for a work permit there. As of right now, IRCC is not encouraging flagpoling, and there are some indications that flagpoling may not be allowed. So you can apply online. Once you apply for your work permit online, because you have an LMIA, you can then raise a web form, and there is a specific category that you can mention on your web form and request for authorization to start working while your work permit is in progress. So if IRCC comes out and then gives you the authorization to start working, you will be able to start working. And obviously, once you have the work permit, that will then just confirm the validity and confirm your status in Canada as a worker. Okay, lots of LMIA questions today, surprisingly. Anyways, have you seen any possibility of FSW getting permanently closed? If so, what is the best valid reason for long hold? Okay, good question. I do not expect FSW to get cancelled or closed. I mean, there are lots of speculations about the ongoing applications being closed. A lot of speculations about FSW getting permanently closed. I mean, think about it. How does it make sense for them to permanently close the federal skilled worker program entirely? That would basically be saying that we will only take people who are inside Canada. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense, because they may not necessarily have the best selection of pool or profile if everybody is already inside Canada. Because people who are already inside Canada would either be the international students or spouses of international students or international workers. That doesn't really give them the best choice of profiles that they might want to pick. So leaving the programs open for whoever might wish to apply, and then making a choice on who they want to take from that pool, is what is more logical, more sensible, because this way they will be able to choose the profiles that they feel are important for the country, for the labor market, for the economy, and whatever makes sense in the existing immigration policy. But closing FSW doesn't make sense at all. And it obviously is going to be detrimental then of any progression as far as the country is concerned. Please advise if Outlander applications are being processed. Yes, they never stopped processing the Outland applications. It was just the finalization which was held back because of restrictions. Why do you think that IRCC is not communicating with potential 179,000 immigrants by explaining the pause of termination of FSW draws? Well, IRCC or Canadian government don't have to explain anything to anybody in terms of the FSW draws. At least that's what I would think. What is really frustrating is lack of communication for any kind of delays that are happening by and large. Well, just like any other federal department, just like any other government department, there are lots of bureaucracy, there are a lot of red tapes as to who can say what, number one. Number two, what is going to be the overall effect or impact by what they say and what they don't say. As of right now, in most cases, or rather most people will obviously feel that to keep quiet, to remain shut is better than to open your mouth and say something which would then backfire or which would come back and bite you, right? For example, sometime back, Marco Mendicino had said that they would be, sending out letters to people whose COPRs had expired very soon, very shortly. And that did not happen. And then people really hounded him for that information. Well, so it was probably there. I mean, that's what I would assume. I do not know. I mean, why they are not. I would love for them to come out and very clearly say that this is what we are doing, this is what we will not do. So at least people can then plan. And as far as the termination or pause of FSW, first of all, there is no termination of FSW draws. If that was to happen, that would definitely be announced, because it's a big policy decision. So there is no way that a termination of FSW draws is happening. As far as pause of FSW draws is happening, well, Canada or IRCC always retain or maintain the discretion of who they will invite from the pool. If you see in its entirety, the whole process is designed in a way that the decision maker has the discretion of choosing who they wish to invite. Now, with the new budget proposal, or the tabled proposal during the last budget that they tabled, was that they want to have a higher degree of discretion on who they can invite from the pool. Until now, the way the program was designed, or the system was designed, they could not specifically pick up profiles and say, okay, I want only this NOC code, I want only this NOC code, I want this person with this age, with this education, from this country, with this NOC code. That kind of categorization was not, it does not have a place in ministerial instructions or ARPA or ARPR. Because it's not in the law, they were not being able to do it. They've already tabled that proposal that they want a higher discretion in being able to choose the profiles that they feel are going to be beneficial for the labor market priority. Now, if that happens, obviously there is going to be more communication, because that is going to be a major big policy change which they will need to communicate. But with regards to not communicating the process delays, not communicating what they are planning to do in terms of the delays with the passport requests not being issued, or the applications not being finalized, spouse open work permits, family sponsorship applications, all that is also being withheld, and it's also being held back, and that lack of information. I mean, say something. Even if it's negative, say it. At least people will know it, people will understand it. People will be able to plan or figure out their way or their life around it. But it's the lack of any information which I guess has created more frustration, more anger amongst the people. Can changing the knock code be a solution if the knock code becomes ineligible? Thank you for the videos. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, absolutely, you can change your knock codes. That is never a problem. The understanding is that you will choose a knock code which matches your job roles and responsibilities. So if you're saying that you had a knock code which did not match, or now you're saying that you will figure out a different knock code which makes a better match. In either situation, you are absolutely fine in changing your knock code. Obviously, whatever you change to, that should match with your roles and responsibilities, and that is how the knock is validated. So that is the reason why you are requested, or you're required to provide an employment letter, which should list down your duties and responsibilities. And once they're able to then ascertain that the document is genuine and it comes from genuine employment, they will then be able to validate your knock code based on the duties and responsibilities. So that's, yes, absolutely, you can change. There is no problem with that. Okay. Well, somebody says, good news for everyone. Direct flights are starting from India to Canada. Well, I'm not sure if that has already been announced. Let's check quickly on the Canadian Border Services website. Give me a moment, guys, so we can know if this is indeed true, correct, happening, not happening. No, I don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. Not here, not here, not here, not here, not here, not here. No, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, are you just speculating, or are you saying it because you have some information? If you do, please share that. That will be much better, because then we will know. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it on Omar Algabra's website, on his Twitter page either. I don't see it anywhere. So no, there is absolutely no reason to believe at this point of time that such an announcement has been made. If it happens, yes, obviously that would be great. Okay. Abdullah says, is validity of EE profile for every applicant same, or it varies? No, it is absolutely same for everybody. It's 1 year from the date you create your profile. My CRS is 447, 2 years of work experience, expected to jump to 472. Should I keep any hopes for FSW resuming by that time? Well, I certainly am hopeful. So, well, I will certainly say that, yes, keep your hopes high. I mean, I can't say about the scores as much, because let's see. And why don't I say that for scores? Now, on your screens right now is the CIC website with the Express Entry page. This is the pool breakdown, okay? And this was as of the September the 14th. This is the pool breakdown, okay? If you see, the total number of profiles in the pool are 179,000. Now, that's a lot of profiles, as you can see. With these profiles, what is going to be difficult is the fact, if you look at, so you are at 472. So look at the score, look at the breakdown here. You have 12,183 profiles between 471 and 480. You have 4,500 profiles between 481 and 490. You have 1,700 profiles between 491 and 500. And more than 500, you have 3,000 profiles. Okay, now that's a huge number. Even if you think that 2,000, so let's just say, oh no, sorry here. Now, even if you think that the last draw that happened of Express Entry, where it was only CEC, and they drew out 2,000 invitation, but that was for score of 462 plus, and I do not know where those profiles would sit here. So taking a wild guess, I would say 1,500. Even with that, you have roughly 20,000 profiles that are sitting here, and that's a big number. Now, with 20,000 profiles sitting with a score of 471 plus, and IRCC now beginning to reduce the number of invitations they are issuing. And the last row was 2,000. That is an indication of, as they will progress, how many invitations they will issue. Now, that should be the reason that should ring some alarm bells if you're at the scores of low 470s, because that shows, or that means that, let's say 20,000 profiles, even if they were to do six draws, okay, back to back, and issue 3,000 ITAs, just a hypothetical figure, even then they would come to only 18,000. Okay, and they would clear out only 18,000 profiles. Means even then, for 472 to hit is going to be quite difficult. All right, because you would still have what, 2,000 some odd profiles left. Your score is at 472. You would also be, I mean, I do not know how many profiles are sitting between the range of 471 to 480. You do not have the exact single CRS score breakdown. But I would say, first of all, expecting 6 draws of 3,000 each is like, come on. I mean, like, when did you see IRCC making that kind of ridiculous thing? I mean, yeah, they did it for CEC. They did that 75 CRS draw, but that was for a different purpose. Absolutely do not expect something like that happening for FSW. There is no incentive, there is no motivation. So for your 472, I think you should start working on improving your scores than 472, because if you sit with 472, it's going to be a bit challenging and difficult for it to hit. Is Ontario PNP invitation quota done for the year? No, not yet. They still have some to go. Mika, thank you. There might be good news regarding the flight ban. Do read my next message for good news. Please note, I said might be. Well, I have been saying might be for the last 3-4 days if you were on my Facebook group. So if that comes true, I will be the happiest person. And as I already said in the beginning of this earlier as well, that we had been discussing about this, that there were expected changes. I was thinking that maybe it is being held back, the update or the news for this change is not being made only because of elections. I can't think of any other reasons why they would hold back. I mean, earlier they were pretty in a hurry to increase the flight ban. They did that 3 weeks back. In the first week of September itself, they announced that they were going to increase the flight ban to 21st of September. This time they have dragged it right till the end. I am still scrolling. I'm actually scrolling the Twitter account. I don't see anything yet to indicate that this has changed at this point of time. Well, if it happens, as I said, I would be extremely happy to note. I still don't see anything. No, nothing. Well, if that information comes through, that would be great. At least that would be some relief, and to a lot of people out there who were hoping that this flight ban is taken off, because so many people have suffered. I mean, the ridiculous amount of money being spent. Okay, just to sort of share with you an anecdote with my son. Well, he came to Canada, or rather, he's already come to Canada. For people who did not know, he is an international student. He is started his program for the September intake with Conestoga College. And with this flight ban, obviously he was affected. He got his approval in the month of April. So since then, with the flight ban and with the lockdowns, he could not get his visas processed. And the day this flight ban extension was announced, I knew it was going to create a bigger issue, because I wanted him to be in Canada, not primarily because he couldn't study online, but let's say I wanted him to be in Canada. I wanted him to be in my close proximity, as I say, haath ki range mein hona chahiye bachcha aapke, hai na? So that was the point. And obviously 7th September was also fast approaching at that point of time. And with 7th September, the tourists were going to start coming to Canada. The flights were going to go crazy. And if people are already aware that the routing from India to Canada, if you are taking a third country route, was working out pretty expensive. People were paying 3 lakh, 4 lakhs, 3.5 lakh, 275, 280 was pretty common, coming from Maldives, going to Ukraine, Albania, Mexico, Serbia, all these situations. So I was in a bit of a quandary there. But thankfully, because I do my own bookings for my own travel, and I usually try to do a lot of research before I do that, and I was able to very quickly pick out some a stopover in Dubai. So I managed to get him on a flight from Hyderabad to Dubai on Emirates Airlines business class, not because I wanted him to travel business class. I don't think he deserves the luxury, but because that was the only seat available. And from Abu Dhabi to Toronto, I was able to get him on a Etihad Airways direct flight. The total cost that I paid for the whole trip, including the stopover in Dubai, including him paying for his RT-PCR, including his transport, including everything, I paid, and I actually bought refundable tickets because I was quite concerned that I might not be able to get his Dubai visa on time, etc. I was still able to get it for 1,04,000 Indian rupees, which I thought was amazing considering that there were alternatives there. So the point I'm trying to make with you, I'm trying to share with you, is that there is always an option out there if you're only willing to put in some time and effort in trying to look what that option is. For me, I managed to save some money for myself, thankfully, only because I was very quickly able to act on the options that were available. It made sense. I was able to research, because just like this option was available to me, it was also available to thousands of people who were booking out tickets. It was just that they were not able to either identify the option or choose the option or make a quick decision. That's just basically all that I would like to say. Okay, there are some more. All right. In what seems to be a reciprocal treatment for citizens of Canada and UK, the Indian government has withdrawn the e-facility for them, as both have posed a lot of restrictions for it. Well, that's again old news. This actually came back 2 days back. And India withdrew the e-visa facility for Canadians. And they also did that for UK. Again, it's not something which was, not expected. At some point of time, they would have done it. I don't think it makes a big difference, e-visa facility. But for some Canadians, it might, who are looking to travel. But apart from that, no, it won't as a large this thing. Air Canada Twitter handle is just giving replies that their flight is scheduled at 22nd September. Well, again, this information also, if you come back to my Facebook group, we have actually posted the screenshot of the flights being available from 22nd of September on Air Canada. Again, something which we have been able to identify before. Rishi Sharma, thank you for the super chat. I had held 3 titles, but the company is giving only 1 letter with complete duration and duties for latest. I'm planning to write an LOE. Is it enough for AINP? Also for minimum qualifications, can I attach JD? Yes, you can. However, when you have 3 different titles, it's always best that the employer mentions what the roles and responsibilities was for each of the titles, or at least says that during your entire duration, while you are maintaining these 3 titles, your job roles and duties remain the same. That way, if there is any ambiguity for anybody who's assessing to understand that there could be a different knock code involved here, that is taken away. Okay. Last question. Can child sponsorship or TRV application be processed faster if both parents are PR holders? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand the question. What do you mean? Okay, so you basically are saying that parents are PR holders, they have a newborn child, and they're asking for a visit visa, whether it can be processed fast or not. Well, I can't tell you whether it can be processed fast or not. I haven't seen any applications being processed fast, especially for visit visa. That is one thing. Number two, even for children, the visit visas get refused again by the premise of the fact that the parents are in Canada or permanent residents of Canada, and hence the ties to Canada become stronger. I did see a few applications being approved last month or so back, but they were held back for quite some time. But again, you will have to put in an application. Don't worry about the not putting a TR. We definitely go ahead and put one, but there is no criteria which says that it will be processed fast or not. Under this current new requirement, or rather the new provision that they have come up with under the family reunification, there is a good possibility it might be processed faster, but you will have to take the chance to see if it does happen. I haven't heard of any applications being processed at this point of time to you. Vyomal says, hats off to you. No, hats off to you. Hats off to you for even attending this and listening to it. Because, for example, if there are 233 people now, if none of you were listening, well, would I be talking? Obviously not. My family is already fed up. They think I don't know anything else, and I can only talk immigration. So they're quite fed up. So I needed to find a new audience, and here I have. Ghost updates, your thoughts? Well, ghost updates basically, okay, express entry system and the front end. So what you see is the front end, that is your user interface. It has limited options to show you the progress update. However, on the back end, that is where the application, or that is where your battleground is, that is where the action is happening. There are obviously several other things that need to be done in your application, which may not have a direct response that can be shown in your screen or in your user interface. So whenever they take any action, whenever they do anything in your application, which sort of triggers an extra entry in their system, because there is no corresponding entry or anything corresponding status to show you, it just triggers a ghost update. That's what basically it means. Okay. So by no means does a ghost update indicates a reaching of a milestone or finalizing of an application. It does indicate that there was some action taken on your application, but not necessarily leading to a finalization of application. Well, thank you so much. That was all from me. If you are not following us on Instagram, then please, that's the link. Please come and do follow us on Instagram. Plenty of things happening there. If you wish to make an appointment with me, by all means do so. That's the link. We can discuss your application, your case, your background one-on-one. And do watch the videos. There was one which I posted yesterday about NOC 2021 that I thought is quite detailed for people who want to know what's happening there. And obviously, please don't forget to subscribe to subscribe to the channel, click on that button and smash it. Share the video if you think it was of any value. Yeah, definitely subscribe if you think it was of any value. Come back next week and we will discuss yet again what else is happening in the field of immigration. Until such time, take care and I'll see you next time.